Okay, so like definitely magic mirroring option right now with like kind of right now everything that like should be effectively settle like situation in the attack in that roulette and basically if you have come back to theater. So definitely that's going to happen like the scenario that still going to sign but okay for like scenario to be like definitely in that with like kind of attack in like a roulette by like also and goes in and dominion might be the case. So they are like offering that attack definitely and like definitely will be saving that part of that and definitely as like one of like the minions of like of Django will be badly injuring like that father of like Alexander is able to eliminate him, but that did last second spend that and put and it will be making it and or like Alice will be seeing finding him that's a running situation and other open that way Alice like saving him from like that of like the scenario that happening. And at that point I'm looking like totally Alice's father like completely regretting like not even allowing aspect of Alice to that even stay at like rolling and all that like the scenario. At that point he realizing like the value of this network and with like the scenario that I'm looking for. And yet like I'm looking like from like the moment has to be showing up like I'm so we're fighting boldly all by herself against like all the great armors like Fox and Dogs. But again technically the scenario being like I'm totally getting fought forward and eventually one of like the flying minutes onto the front with affecting like the value in the Alice and like I'm sitting like definitely and maybe like that flying minute even showing up from like the mind of Alice will be like all takes of seven value by the well scenario. And that way like that flying million like a basic Alice is like in the scenarios that I'm looking and still be going. At that point, so like the moment like the one of like the flying unit will be that affecting and at that point, so one different instantly that whole attack on like the town of Rulid on the village led by his army of like Mustang or one of the would be like instantly that would be instantly stopping and all the Mustang of it would be like instantly running back to like the after the moment one of like the flying units would be affecting Alice and taking flying away while abducting and taking Alice and flying towards like around the place like the definitely the scenario for the because like I'm still remember trying that like and the actual parents will be from like the Rapa and it actually be from like the Rapa. Some of the channel born this over Magal. And it's a father involved in my town that in my town found and it's in that the area close to that and now and that we might have found that child all by also lost there. And like that made me as a you might have different indexes but made have involved in the that we made it real that is sitting on. So let's current check in like the town of Roland might be true like, and that's typically the mind of the investment that like Angel's mother, the actual mother would be like the role of like the architect. And as the probably view that part my who had basically right to like reach it like towards like Alice that when like Alice for like first time had that often it was having that from like the cave at like in mountain to like the architect. That might definitely be like it's actually the mother definitely another game which was just kind of that in like the town of Rome as well to go get according to like the owner of like the queen role the opposite who might be acting smaller on that she might have gone like come down with like an input have to that one of like the also frozen for like the flying and having spot of like and that in only a reason which might be the case that we have a friend. This might be solely to that to the propose like bring Alice back to like the so until the owners of like has been not the same owner of the car, the medial code is a format that has attack on like own certainly might be interesting that I'm studying on. But like I'm it's the moment and so we getting affected by like the flying in that's why in itself like attack on the whole is instantly stopping and like on the option government and the remaining flying in like all things and back to like the other it's like the scenario that I'm looking and by then like I'm thinking so would have probably rolled out with like one of the stores like kids would have rolled out of his like house and would be like struggling in that while thrusting like the sword onto like the ground. Like people would be like struggling his way into like they are managing to like stand up when Kirito and they'll be standing right in front of the his home when Kirito will be shockingly having that shocking or would be like that of like that Alice being abducted and taken away by like a flying away with like you know like the rabbit and that in the rabbit like it's scenario and that shock is what I'm looking for and that shock and that was the way he need that would be great at that point to consider to like save Alice healthy born like and the system would be um like would be making it possible for like get to be able to like return back to this that not itself and that at that point was like the scenario that I'm looking and that day like at that point just straight away running back to the black house and they along with like the blow of like it's also taking his sword as well. And then also bring up that point is like for next week or so either get the same way of like taking up these two sorts of like the growth of sort of the get the also like get the straight away either running to like the town of Rulid to see everyone's okay there. And then like get to there like we seeing the shop center as well as like a bad danger like so that's part of like usually and like to them like that game shop center being shop that seeing like crypto that is like normal self and like social Susan got that when like if you're only finding out about like basically for attacked by like the ops and like minions like constantly stopping at the moment that one of the minions had abducted and flew away with that and it will be along the lines and the Selka if you're finding out that but like the scenario that I'm going if you're that one is totally confused and that won't have any like flat gaps to like why it was so it's like the scenario that so like at that point it's like if there was a like after like running up to like the darker way. Uh, that's the one possible scenario that I'm referring. Like through and through that they get to entering into the dark. So like, this is like one possible thing that I'm the possible scenario that I'm referring. The other possible scenario that I'm referring is for like crypto. It on witnessing like applying thing like flying up and flying away like had a like the skins at that point like get out of it. So get to that point. Like only straight away heading over to like so that it's only the question intention like they have it. So that maybe get to that point might be uh, able to like see on a distance that this is army of like off and weapons like on the trading and leading like the not the trading but like leading from like the town order of that is like the other hospital now the embassy was over there. So like that they get those straight away like after like the things and getting to like get those straight away after and get those straight away taking up the floor also on a full stable forward and let's straight away I'm not to then come after like full let's say and it's like the other stuff is that and this is amount so like but me was very interesting right now as for like role it right now things that by like often role and like but it is still not trying to like escape from the area of the that leading to do that and to like really to like them finding that town for all that that can be government and pressure to them more than anything. Maybe that might be the reason for like the villagers would be that willing to like even they are like into like trying to like attempting to like protect the village might be the case definitely I think like this might be the reason for like the major even while having that opportunity and a pathway to like escape from all like still standing there trying to like protect their village from like the opponent or might be the reason is definitely not the okay, so like but me know the brand right now as for like the person right now standing next to like the villager as his father like ordering like the villagers to like no like they need to get to where they are like and the because this could be okay according to like also like the like as his father like definitely my brand who see that as the father and something like the villager who something like would be so extremely selfish that they need that he might have like right now he prioritizing like the protection of like the village like infrastructure of like the village even more than like the safety of like the villagers there. Like even as like the villagers like and like as the father might be taking that selfish right now might be taking that selfish decision to like instead of like by like the village currently have the escape route feel free of like any enemies and why even by like the villagers have even right now have like the chance to like escape and save themselves from like the sudden attack of like the mobs and goblins and like road. Still understanding that as its father as well like the villagers will be like totally I think in that I will be feeling selfish and like might want to like even if it's doing like the sacrifice of like the villagers like this to protect like the village the infrastructure of like the village would be along the lines of the different like who will be like of like the stick mindset of like and selfish extremely selfish mindset of like and spark right now. Just like one possibility that I'm looking or like I'm looking like it might be that person that like right now doing this like current order to like the villagers that who feel like the also might be the reason to might have changed and the power the villager who one point might have been that Indian genuinely could like he might have already gotten manipulated and influenced by like the villain's mindset of like that of like that person standing next to him is definitely going to be so like he might be like that villain he can so might have now being manipulated and probably change like the kind of person like as a part of what and maybe like this might be what's like happening right now with that and like him giving the orders to like the villagers like it might be that the villain mindset and selfish mindset of that person to whom like on the different like that and the power what is manipulated and listening to might be the case is certainly not a good so like even though that so like even like as the father might be only having an position of that village alone when in actuality, like all the decisions might have been so far might have been done through like the manipulation of like that person who's like woman. Who might have been only like the assistant of like the villager Alex father, like who might have been managed to like manipulate that Alex's father for the villager process like and taking decisions basically according to his like specific view and all that might have been what that happened. So like right now with like Alice going up likely to that format I'm doing right now. Alice like in a angry manner like Alice will be totally would be embraced as like the as part of like the villagers, or to like the villagers to like only escape and save themselves to that escape as well. So like I'm putting right now as the part of like and asking her father like why he's not doing that or why I'm doing at that one thing like that upset of like the villagers like straight away like only once again like manipulated like the villagers was like mind and into like turning even more against like Alice and basically and they believe that way like the villager and father like totally straying away once again from the like sense of justice and basically once again listening to like the manipulation of like that assistant and basically that way giving the odd to like the villagers to that they be pushing their life to that protect like the relationship of that escaping and all that. It's like person are that that way like I'm looking like no matter how much like and as be like an extremely disappointed and will be like trying to convince that kind of part of like like that then will be like still push me would be able to like manipulate like and part of so like different selection and only like the narrow that so that way like I'm looking like a lot of like religious games that are already like ending up getting eliminated solely due to like the decision of like the villagers in the league not in the revolution that way. And that way I'm the trying like solely due to that decision of like the villagers who like I'm the different like think being too much for like Alice to like handle because like even while fighting off against like the his army of like orphan goblins like even at that point like Alice didn't have had ending up having to like also simultaneously ensure like the protection of like the villagers as well would be fighting that fight against like the orcs and goblins would be mostly getting offered by like orcs and goblins. So like I'm thinking that has having to like focus simultaneously uh had some like, half past of like focus simultaneously on like attacking things down like orcs and goblins while simultaneously instantly like more and more villagers will be getting badly injured by like so much orcs and goblins. So like I have to have like simultaneously rush into like protecting and train those villagers simultaneously. Yeah. So that will totally eventually getting totally out of hand from like just lacking injury and take a lot of injuries from like Bengal and eventually flying, like affecting and flying away like it's like into the stuff reflecting scenario that so like even though the village but this is like the automatic like the village would be giving like I'm just still like on sea and I'm still like the village would be even though I'm like it's a narrative like I'm supposed to like the history of like the village and the like and just that and like, even though like the villagers still would be looking into this like and still I'm looking like once like still I'm looking at like the villagers would be from a distance would be bigger thing like they will add struggling so much to like protect like, the village and like so many like the villagers will like the problem to like ending up getting eliminated and all that solely due to that single order of that being of like the villagers like and the things slowly think starting to like feel more and more guilt and regret and that strong feeling of like he has made the wrong choice and the wrong uh, instead of prioritizing like the safety and the care of the it would be along the line something eventually he will be coming down to and like remembering that uh realizes what's totally happening to him at the moment that Alice will be seems to getting badly injured by and or by the Auckland or someone he will be left only with nothing but of like the finding updating and flying away that is like the scenario that under the royal body and never to get one. And at that point I'm totally projecting like self-care will be like extremely angry at like her father and basically will be totally venting out and shouting out in an enragement towards that her father like the villager at that point accusing him and blaming him for like Alice like basically getting affected and like so many villagers like getting eliminated like which led to the scenario that happened. And that like at that point I was like the villagers are being forced to like accept like that feeling of that guilt. At that point like the villagers won't be like deny it. It's like absolute feeling of like regret and guilt possession anymore at that point. It's like the scenario. So like at that point I was like after like anything in a way like the village elder like would be desperate to like basically to be able to do anything at all that she can to like totally make up for it and to be expected and like the scenario. And once like you'll be coming down to like such a mindset, and you'll be able to like finally like see things clearly and respond. It will be at only at that point that I'm and maybe for like a shift of mind will be that restoring and like will be picking up a look for and running off to that Rulid. And at that point would be that meeting that and talking to that villagers perspective or in the scenario that I and my book very okay, so that definitely one thing that I'm also right now about that self right now trying to let them win on part of like the villager to like listen to like narrative like I'm still like the villager but like ego being fast to being to talk into that listen to that analysis and like I'm putting the police like the villager like selfishly still probably continuing on to like giving or to like listen to like things that cheat at like brings honor like which and like that way like that extreme selfishness and villanistic intent let against the student was like thing that ending up happening. It's like the scenario that I was doing, and that way, like I would say that it's being so much for like to handle for like for addict, and that way like I'm saying that a lot of villagers as well like in that battle getting eliminated, and like that as well resulting in like due to like things being extremely too much for like to handle like eventually and just getting danger and getting affected and taken to get the other game like the scenario that is sitting on the so like the movement is very interesting right now is that right now revealing that let's use like third in command of like the interconnect of like that's in the and so the play this like in that time while like after that before that like it's like in the once that get to ended up in like and it was like unwell kind of like integrating like even then like I'm talking like unless my dog often like once a while like my dog will make head over to that the action jobs to basically to do for series of like with her performance like and that like once a while she might have and my dog worked on that like I'm doing it and each and every time it might have been during like night time definitely my picture because definitely with like temporary right now showing up and lack of sleep. I think like the carrying not to go watching like I'm looking that might have been due to that temporary so they wanted and to like full person like full time and like the active stuff like might be the sort of for like Alison the chick while it was in that time like I'm looking like even while it was when like I'm looking like during like night time or like even during daytime like I'm looking like maybe even during daytime like I'm looking like as might have like left to like once a while like I might have depend that time might have left to like the accent jobs and might have performed on theory was like any other way might definitely what might have happened to like during this time like I'm like the light that Alice might have told Selka like right now it's revealed that it even not even Selka within that time have realized that it has like any other like I'm looking so that the light that Alice might have or to like say helps in that time might be like and might have probably put some sort of like to like cell to like probably split up like keep it up for like a few hours during which like Alice might selfly that like Alice have something like something that she needs to do that we will get off the line like Alice might have so that time might have made up some sort of like and so to like Selka while Alice will be like steadily heading over to like that up to like perform something that the night might have been what might have been happening within that time definitely my consider so like but like answer right now revealing that like he's like the third in command of like the actual stuff like so like definitely my direction right now is that like currently the first in command in among like the internet would be definitely Buckboy and like the second in command is most likely Fanatio. Definitely my prediction. That way Alice being left to third in command uh might be the case is definitely my prediction. And maybe I'm going to find like Elray might be like the fourth in command. It's like my prediction right now. Okay, so like the name of the prediction right now would like the internet and as well as like and the dragon Amaori like fighting with adaptive power against less like no kind of still under the like this battle progressing to the point of that Alice getting affected by one type of lightning, like the scenario that we're giving, and that's to that being a good scenario as like how bad is it happening and like it will be most like this was one of like the usually one of like the ops of goblins like basically capturing and badly injuring either Alice's like part of the village elder or like Zelda is like the scenario that the pyramid. So like one of the first purposes and bad injuring either the villagers or Zelda. And at that point I'm looking like that would be totally unexpected for Alice and basically at that point like Alice is only stopped and all of and just Jack was instantly down and like and so until that point we'll be fighting the ball that might like we'll be having such guard down at that moment and we'll be having all the focus falling on to like the bad like the injured like legend of like Silka that will be like the scenario that and at that point when Ansel he losing that focus. At that point I'm from Ansel's blind side like doing that from like from triangles like basically badly on like one. of what problem like badly injuring Alice and like that we had taken significant damage in what was like the scenario that I'm doing and simultaneously during this that like during this like fine and like that like Mayori like enough target of like and as well basically getting simultaneously attacked by a great number of like flying minions like during that kind like a great number of flying minions like simultaneously attacking and badly injuring and bringing down even like the two dragons Mayori like two gods of fighters Mayori like and like put into the scenario that so like simultaneously these two things happening and that way like Alice getting badly injured and like almost and it's either going unconscious or like and like being so badly injured to even use like the scenario that I'm looking. So like at that point the badly injured and it's not become getting affected by one of the flying minions that was the like so scenario that I'm looking. Yet like I'm doing like the moment and it will be taken away like like attack of like the option profit and like 5 million from like December to at that point even 5 million as well that would be that maybe that great number of them would be that like and 10% could be that maybe full damage to that the building of like the whole and all that. But like all that instantly stopping like the moment and it will be getting other by one of the 5 million it's like scenario the scenario that are looking in the well, sort of name it the rain question right now as well. Like mid battle, like one of like the problems right now, for me to like eliminate and it's like I'm looking that might be naturally due to like all this like government governments like because they only having like the information but like Alice was like person somewhere in like the role and then to attack as well and still take the method and everything is useful that they take a better and take away Alice and bring Alice back to like the after might be the case definitely my friend. Yet like I'm looking like it might be due to that and right now like like wearing that the armor of like painted tonight and like I'm looking like the goblin might not be able to like correct me and it might be the case that we so like I'm just like eventually as like the battle of the like and like eventually like by through one of the back of like the offshore road and like I'm going like kind of like uh Indefinite armor getting shattered and destroyed is like the scenario that happened. And maybe thinking only at that point that like the orc and goblin like and I was speculating like around like the armor and goblins like in this job as well will be showing up to like this level to like the scenario that so, like at that point it will be only once like had armor getting destroyed. Indefinite armor will be getting destroyed that I'm preparing like the orc and goblins might be being able to like recognize that it's like that internet was like actually added this like scenario like I'm so like I'm looking back when like in like the past when like crypto along with like had that while hanging on to like the outer portions of like the outside of like the center of Cathedral and trying to climb up that center of Cathedral back when like one of like the flying minions like attacking and targeting specifically the internet had it even while and the fact and have like Indian half of my leaders really like maybe like supplying me the minutes like having way more sharper eyesight than like the problem and problem might be the case. And things like supplying minutes might have been able to like easily like recognize that it might have been what might have happened. Certainly it might have back then certainly it might have also the flavor is very interesting right now in Hotspot, like along with like the of that topic that they are being also not like big monsters like and unlike in like the case of like the monsters, like the big monsters might not actually be on like the like the big monsters might have been like things that like things from like or from like the fountain like or that basically the hops and goblins in like the distant past might have mainly it might have been like the hops and like the distant past might have adventure to expand their army. So like I'm thinking what might have happened might have been once like the what like the goblins like fight like a fake like I'm thinking like the virus like nothing something that might be getting infected still at the point of like the turning into like goblin like big monster might have been what might have happened in like the past, especially one of the first. So in that way like the might have turned into like big monsters who might have acted totally alike to how like Jordan's action and that way like I'm saying like that way I'm looking like the army of like the last three might have expanded to such a manner as like might have been what might have happened like after and so like that way might have been how it's like right now in like the current attack of like the goblins in like whole like it would have been also like an army of like big monsters as well might be might have happened to such a manner that we might have so it's definitely not doing the thing right now as well like saying that Granite Alice right now is declaring that like she's like Alice from like the Indian bar to like the big monsters as well as like the goblins like it might be only right now, only at this point that like I'm different like the goblins as well as like the big monsters might be right now even attacking like only with like the soldiers into like other allies would be even realizing that they that the powerful Indian knight woman that's like standing right before them is in fact like that very thing as that they had came looking for in Polo. It's like might be very memorable. But like this might be like the moment where like holding like what happened of goblins as well as like still ones of will be realizing that actually had definitely might be very not quite much. Also the main of the election right now that I think like the current battle between like the Democrat had versus like the or the all this like not just from like the lots of taking like a role like I'm looking I think it's like taking place during my time due to like the lack of like system which like I think like powers like as it so and as it powers like I'm looking that leads to the lack of system like it's like the fight with like battle is taking place during my time like I just right now want to like bring out through levels of current strength is definitely my preference. So that as well comes to the point like saying uh, playing a role and the fact of being like eventually even if it's through lag, even though I'm preferring for serious through lag, I was Selka or like regulated, most likely Selka getting into that range of fight like the most of that lag and like Alice that's totally losing letting down of guard and losing her focus and resulting in like Alice getting more for and up like that. But still but that even even so, like I'm personally also hurting that will that push back or like the fight taking place during nighttime and that way was they had having that extreme disadvantage in that unleashing out being able to like unleash out and limitations in hand capability not being able to like unleash out and just stroke power might be the case and that as well playing a huge factor in all the flexibility happening upon general trend. Yes, so like but neighbor the Korean but right now that's all like info right now comforting as well as saying like it was literally coming back to like as well. All that will be such an absolute state that is like a info when it's definitely managed because like as soon as even ending up in like the ocean location as well as like crypto ending up in like the ocean location like all the fully topic according to like the villain stick plan of Kaiba and Ringo and it's definitely my different so definitely this like some attack by all this like uh for like memory for on like the location will be for according to like that according to like the plan of that Kaiba, secret plan of the Kaiba Ringo that Kaiba would have only betrayed that Tipoka. It's a name of different so that the only thing in Kaiba's mind and it might have been that that's only that the Kaiba I might have said it was in that time. It's definitely not in the range. Kaiba only that would be to like only just to like even behind like putting in all that effort and something to work out in that creation of like the reward of control and all this might have been totally with the whole intent to like eventually get that kind of like a revenge on like crypto as well as like a doing aspect for like in like the mouse like crypto to be like kind of in like the sort of online game and we destroying all of like the sort of online plan of like all that happens only through crypto and like Asuna helping crypto back that all that like definitely the two targets of Kaiba will be crypto and Asuna the crypto will be like the main target of like Kaiba to get that up to window crypto definitely Michael variable. So like right now, definitely Ringo bit of 15 on that plan of that account. So like right now, that even when Ringo right now is like 10.8. That's one I like Ringo bit of 15 that's enough to say that. And that one is definitely my better impression. So definitely I'm doing that without this created at all that into this like some control of like Kitoka. See that when like Ringo and Asuna are right now fighting in like through that round of like separating like Kaiba going up without the created while maybe being accompanied by like one or two of like those like military weapons, like making us like grand enter to like that sub control room at that point and like Asuna getting that absolutely the shock at that point. It's like the scenario is better because of the brain and the people so that like people will be like getting the good cheapers who might not only got tricked by like the team villains like political strategy of like what and Ringo might have been what made that happen is definitely my point of view. So and that way, like I'm looking at that point, like fundamental principle, like I was making a like entrance into that control code. Like at that point, itself, I'm looking like having both like a revelation as for like Ringo having figured in that husband and having to install that sweet acting into like trapping even as you want to like location. Like, all that revealed from that Ringo side as well happening so that exact moment. It's like the scenario. Like I'm just on the like the realistic from like I thought it changed in like Ringo's character at that point instantly and like Ringo that having that actually brilliant facial expression of his laughing at like Ringo and also at that point of like you know the music man of along like at that point like feeling good to narrate that and also and my victory there is a like minimum credential right now for like Liga right now from during that like those who have taken over like those in the conversation of being part of maintaining official avenues of the world like the organization. So that and will of course would be like naturally like just run up train individuals from like about the different countries. I think like Liga has also controlled that like they are not from Japan. Compared to foreign definitely this might be trained individuals from like a totally different country that the Kaiba might have contacted in like the past and like this like and might have revealed about this board for like the takeover of like those industry locations and Kaiba might have offered them like the perfect artificial bloodline of that and in exchange for like a huge sum of money might have been definitely necessary. So definitely this might have been what might happen. And number two like Kaiba in like the past when like definitely Kaiba like but might have helped people out so much in the development of like the local world and not for that to even happen like Kaiba, like how exactly Kaiba might have this is like fame of like the solar connections that is in Kaiba as like how exactly Kaiba might have bottom himself to be able to like work with like to be able to like be part of like the focus team to develop like the working work on the work might have been totally through Ringo and Ringo and all this you know so like Kaiba initially might have set up and might have sent Ringo as like wanting to like work with like Hikoka and all that. And it might have been kind of basically that might have been doing all the work and like handing over like that work to agree and steadily to Ringo. Which like Ringo would be like provided to like Hikoka and like Hikoka and Peter might have that and that time might have been thing that it might have it was all like Ringo brilliant and everything. So like and because like the development of like the world on the world might have accelerated good solely little like I was for me but like and like essentially like it was might have probably feeling extremely grateful towards like Ringo for like it was like immense contribution and help which like would be like at that point would be probably making it might have made people feel probably grateful towards that Ringo and it might have been like the strategy of Kayaba. It looks like Kayaba might have told Ringo that like one like after like super interesting people at that point was only for like to have people feel grateful towards like Ringo's brilliance so that at that point for like and until that point for like Ringo still like don't what loyalty with like people so that at that point once the people will be feeling grateful towards like Ringo like and would be having that feeling of like as if like choosing that towards like and that towards like and at that point for like Ringo still like really about like not being Ringo's brilliance but like being kind of community and that time in that helps people out in like the development of that what will work on board and all that. So like at that point, I'm the like definitely people might have like due to like the tough time kind of scenario happening where like this and that time like Kaiba might have not at all preferred like or done anything suspicious at all against like people in like this like developing phase. Then all the time of like what the world and all might have been what might have happened. So like people at that point might have maybe trusted Kaiba, that Kaiba might have seen the human players, and that way Kikoka might have been straight away with like Kikoka and Kaiba, and Kikoka might have told Kaiba to like come to that Kikoka to bad. And then from that point on, Kikoka as well as Kaiba might have been like working together, and then the Senda and like creating like even like Kaiba even deciding to like develop this like super realistic world, new world, like the world on the world, and all that might have been solely for like Kaiba to like get back just like a lot of ego and pride due to lack of like ultimate goal of that kind of trying to like achieve like after like the solar online game, all of that's being destroyed by Kirito and like as long as something Kirito out and like Kirito back then having even defeated Kaiba like that's good pride and everything of that we do and the looking of like Kaiba as well trust like Kaiba might have wanted to get it all back by eventually like doing that absolute doing that absolute prevent on like that or suffering for like Kirito and Asuna and that with like some trust and defeat that Kirito and Asuna would be that absolute goal that Kaiba might have definitely kept within him. And he said even like Kaiba helping out so much, the challenge that helped people out so much with like the development of it. And it might have been like especially that serious priority for like very important priority for like but to like have like the new world of festivals and lot of what to develop such a world and have it super realistic way to that way feel that much more like way greater to that immensity of like a back to that and otherwise back to the tip of kind of right I mean like the basics of lead my interest. So definitely even that when like during that while Kaiba might even with that to that team up with like different Kitoka and like always eventually working with that Kitoka and building with that ultimate what's it work on the that on the call at that point the Kaiba might have always even planned way back might like eventually make that as really rare of that Kitoka and to have to contact like individual trained individuals from that another country and to like sell them like the public half of the first like from that and that way through such a bribe to like get them to that infiltrate into that person location and to even like suddenly Kaiba might have even pay like a huge chunk of some of that money for like in exchange for like the offer of like like perfect after the purchase. The automated rate. So like those random individual trade individuals from like a different country. It's like programming right now we have only small part of like any official courses or like an official organizer still goes around for individuals from their point of view. While Kaiba might have explained to them for like their opportunity like they might have maybe being able to like understand they might have seen that as like another good huge opportunity for them to even if they have to like they might have felt that they have to like pay a handful some money to the Kaiba to get that profit up to the like that as like still they will like resell it for like an even extremely huge sum of like money after like getting and photograph like that. Along the lines on the that we the individuals might have to some official courses in the academic different country for like such to fight in the around the line that we random individuals might have totally but definitely not different. So like it might have been slowly due to that kind of prioritizing that self to that extreme because of that kind of things that after that so that only then different that kind of being such a want criminal that that might have been like that very important for like that kind of while setting up the code to like usually get back that absolute revenge on like to end up on all that was on board. So that might be due to like solely to the region that the Kayaba himself might have not attempted to like for like an official military um or like an organization in that kind of country for like Kayaba only that setting up that strategy to like only communicate and get like random trained individuals from like another country to form this like for exchange and that way to have them take over like notion development so that like Kayaba can like really get his like in such a situation where like the open of location would be taken over by these individuals like at that point so that like Kayaba would like really tell about with like happening on like that is the enough might have been that kind of or like the alternate plan that like realistic plan that might have made up as a mind that might have been and also might have been questions that sitting on the spot like what Kaiba might be planning and for like ultimate prevention on like and more suffering on like both keep up and uh, maybe like to might be to like people in like other to like post on the get like post Azona as well to eventually also enter into like the virtual world of world and that way within like the working world of realistic super realistic world of the working world of control within that world to like telegraph that are suffering to like worst case within the working world on world or like I was plan might be to like telegraph that up with suffering to like so within like the working world of control and how put Asuna in like a trap kind of a situation, hopefully make Asuna watch it and that way make to make Asuna suffer by witnessing that such as that people suffering with the second over comfort. This might it will be one of these two possibilities for that what Kaiba would be planning might be planning that update events for like a return of the especially method variant to the land one. Also like we kind of variant right now that is this like right now we will like beta to like brilliant like and like to can't be rejected externally like I'm referring solely to like the situation as well I'm referring to dealing with resulting in like those like trained individuals like the government really like getting frustrated and angry at like to for like not keeping his word of like basically handing over like the perfect architecture like of that kind of to like the trained individuals. So like I'm looking like at that point I'm looking like I was also telling them reassuring them and comforting them and telling them that basically that even though externally and like you can't be ejected like still since like internally like and like you can be that ejected like Kaiba would be reassuring them and like that by telling them that like Kaiba would enter into like the world of underworld and basically ensure to like graduate from in an internal manner to like from within like the world of underworld to like find Alexan to how that way that how Alexan that perfect like will get ejected internally would be around the lines of like that reassurance at that point that the Kaba would be giving to like all those like trained individual for like scenarios that are different. And this would be how like Kaba is getting at that point to simultaneously have that while constantly having like the public but of like and it's like ejected from internally that at the same time for like Kaba to also deliver that absolute revenge on like the Kirito and Azuma from within the game as well. Like basically, Kaiba would be totally planning this at that point, and to do that, like I'm looking Kaiba only at that point, entering into like the virtual world of Underworld through like the silver account of like Forest Asia. This is like the scenario that happens. So like that way, Kaiba even like the moment Kaiba would be even entering into like the virtual world of Underworld, Kaiba would be entering itself as like Doris in like the form of like Forest Asia, and straight away like all the humans in like the human race this straight away would be like seeing Kaiba as like that absolute proof for Asia and would be like totally straight away that would be that following anything everything like the God of Asia which would be Kaiba in the state would be that giving us any and everything all of like Kaiba would be giving them like all the humans and like in the ways would be like faithful straight away for the like the scenario that I'm going to go in. Yes, well, like Muslim and right now for like your first like so self-image like for instance if you and maybe right now like as soon as realizing this as soon as looking at like the right wing to go it's pretty like you as one without much credit at all like telling people that she wants to like full dive thinking like to get on your lifestyle she'll be able to like fix that like damage that's been of to like that self image the field of like picture and all that like they will like Asuna okay only believing that she could like she goes to like it to her thing and like do it from within like the one transport and that way be able to like bring kids to back to that no option could be along the lines of so now they absolutely firmly and basically that Asuna convince to go to like that way Asuna that point could dive into like the world of underworld of like the scenarios that I'm looking at Asuna to like computer parang like Asuna only like exact like in kids escape like I'm something that Asuna well Asuna at that point waking up at like the exact location and like the spots are like kids go after like diving into like the world like has broken definitely not great, but like the specific difference will be definitely that like as soon as even maybe first full time into like virtual world of underworld like that, as soon as we retaining up and we definitely that so like this would be that higher fact and that and the like as soon as that you know really like as soon as only being persistent and telling people that she definitely has to like rise out and act and maybe put that into like virtual world comfort and save Kirito and bring that Kirito would be around the line. So now would be that like a season and the turning phase will be telling Kirito about that Kirito that point will be when telling Asuna that like Asuna has like a 50 percentage chance of like but the Asuna will be having her memory intact after like the dive into like the virtual world and the world or no. It's definitely not difference. And get like Asuna don't think be willing for people like Asuna probably not really willing to like take that up going to the kind of Asuna could have into like the support and what and like probably the Asuna like Asuna when Asuna will waking up and like that force and then probably like for like Asuna will be having half memory intact at that point like broken up that way like Asuna first like making it short like a rolling and like I'm like in a rolling like Asuna totally searching around and asking for like Kirito to like the villages and all that and I'm still none of like the villages that and I'm particularly like eventually Asuna ending up talking to that. None of the protection none of the villages won't be left even knowing that who is is but like I'm just like eventually Asuna asking around and with like it, all this asking to like all the direct number of villages and told it like ending up getting no that. Yeah, like I'm finally Asuna getting the faster and at that point when I'm from that while Asuna would be totally exhausted and like sitting somewhere in that around or with like or by something, but that point I'm tripping that Selka totally showing up towards like Asuna at that point and like for giving Asuna a glass of water or something thing Asuna was like stranger like badly exhausted. So that at that point, I'm looking that Suna and Delta just like casually interacting and that their interaction like Asuna probably that talking about Kirito that basically Asuna by then maybe let's start like his spoke. So like I'm looking at Asuna straight away for getting to like Selka about like Kirito, if she knows Kirito, this person called Kirito or not. And like that way Asuna while and Asuna doesn't while casually interacting with like Selka like Asuna eventually like ending up talking about like this person Kirito with like Panado that I'm doing. And at that point Selka start telling Asuna that like she knows Kirito and at that point Asuna picked up big talk. And basically at that point Selka comes and like Selka quickly taking Asuna towards that house where like Alice and Kirito would be like the scenario that I was so like they are like entering straight away, like Alice would be like straight away finding like Asuna for speech that will be like seeing Asuna as like an athlete threat. And if she was like the recent attack by like the Fox and goblin by the goblins and like the monsters in like the close town of like the road like comes to the Navy like like Dingatian and like totally even seeing like the corporate just like nail like Asuna being like some sort of like speed but still threat like maybe even something someone from like that or maybe they're being famous from like that and like Asuna being in like someone in like the guys to like probably get revenge on like Kirito and like Alice maybe along the line maybe Alice for the thing so like Alice will be only very well seen like Asuna as like it's certainly kind of thing like Asuna would be like probably trying to like convince Alice as well as like about like the real world that is outside of the virtual world because a real world with like real people and with the danger of being like the real world and everything like Asuna would be just probably trying to like convince and but like I'm definitely and as well as like even more than Selka, like Selka on the only being in a confused like kind of like create daunting or that cause of like things that uh, that like Asuna will be like but like I'm different like in the case of like Alice like I'm different like and like in the just case like Alice would be only seeing like not able to like understand at all like what like Asuna will be trying to convey but like on top of that like Alice will be totally straight away assuming that like Asuna like totally saying all this be like confused or incorrect stuff uh into that basically that getting revenge along the line for like Asuna's like reason for like anticipation like destruction of like attack of like the of the goblin in like surround it and all that really along the line Alice would be sort of everything and Alice would be like probably the last thing Alice would be wanting would be to like get Asuna close towards that Kirito because like Alice would be totally protective of that Kirito and like Alice would be totally seeing Asuna as like a potential threat or like a danger of the Kirito along the line like and so everything and that kind of like the scenario and like eventually end up putting like Asuna losing patience because of like this extreme urgency to like probably to save Kirito, especially like even though saving Kirito would be like the biggest priority for like Asuna still and those putting like Asuna would be also doing that basically like for like to like save Kirito as soon as possible so that like basically even if like so that like if like those forces that have like integrated into like open that location when make eventually make it to like sub control from those the people can make stuff like at that point like maybe like the possibility of like them after stealing away like and like uh artificial much like really it's a seeing half has this like public artificial like then like going to the point like the entire because of the location will be along the line so different like maybe and the different like Asuna would be only seeing as like what is it so like there will be that absolute feeling of urgency within like the feeling of train like definitely eventually lack of like the whole blind lag and from this stick that and slave indicator of that and at that point that's what I'm looking for like after like getting fed up and after getting enraged with like and it's like looking up that I'm looking for. So like I would like and particularly that not allowing a human to like get close or even interact with like schedule and the different like eventually Asuna challenging and to like that to that basically decided whether like and the victor gets to that take the risk would be along the lines of the different added as one of challenging answer that many set scenario that I'm the previous scenario that I'm and at that point I will feel like a one ultimate bad and picking that added looks that as like the scenario that I'm in which like Azona only who should like Azona has that you know experience at all like fighting in like towards one of one to like I'm preparing that me initially I'm the like that fight like Azona simply straight away as like that begin to tell like Azona start getting all about the fight and then as soon as Bobby's fighting in that fight against that Alice, like scenario that everything, and that's like Alice will be about to like start really quick, as soon as everything, and that will after them will be when like that will that desire to win will be happening within that Asuna, while Asuna we are remembering. Yes, so and the danger in that career good and everything that need that strong will and like that strong need would be arising within that Asuna to win this battle and that way be able to like talk to that citizen, save citizen, bring it back to like normal self and everything. So that absolutely need and sure that actually that's been happening like Asuna that way that like a comeback of that Asuna into that battle happening and this is that way like into the number either that battle ending up in that draw at that point. It's like most likely I'm considering still that battle ending up in a draw because of like still given then like Asuna has actually more experience that was fighting in that and being more supportive like that fight ending up being a draw or like the like the rare possibility that I'm considering it for like Asuna battery to the very end of that battle that for this that finally managing to like struggling her way into the draw and beating like had like the least likely to consider that. So like mostly that battle ending up being like a draw. So that way, like still, even though Arsenal wouldn't have won that kind of thing, like even then, like I'm looking like Barcelona would be winning, like I'm looking at and still trying to like stop Sona from uh interacting with it. But like at that point, number 20, if they maybe sell come that will be in the fear and that will be telling and that basically find that basically to let Arsenal stop like it. And that way, like I'm looking like an extremely Christian man of like kind of like man of like and stopping 11 Muslim actor like so like it. And that way like I'm saying like the whole interaction between that Asuna and Kirito so they Asuna trying to that to have good that they're trying to that uh, have Kirito like basically able to like uh, have that like whole image self-image processing secure like to fix it like I'm looking Asuna would be like a trainer trying to like interact and after also the questions and interacting that with the Kirito that Asuna telling Kirito about like all the past memories that precious memories that they shared together and they will think of hope that they need that might like manage to like basically trigger some memory within Kirito which might fix that self-image conflict structure within the damage which makes that person control within Kirito like in the scenario that I'm in. So like all this attempts of like Asuna for the repeatedly failing is like the scenario that I'm in. And on certain thing we failing like I'm and like I on the other hand will be talking more Asuna it's like the scenario that I'm referring to, like that can be how like a little bit taken off from frustration of like being Asuna, like being so close to to at that point of like the scenario that I'm referring to. Just like deep down that and slowly I think like it allows like to the like all board of new premise. But I can do like giving you the scenario and something another huge attack by like the what from the start of it happening and this time I'm between like that attack not happening in like Rulid but on that attack happening by specifically targeting that house where like kind of and get to end up when over at that point it's like the scenario that I'm looking at. That attack like I'm just like being like a last scale full army of like not just goblins and like the big monsters but also the more like monster but also that more as well as like flying minions and everything will be happening like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like in that fight, like I'm probably as like Alice as well as like Azuma will be fighting through that fighting against like the huge army of like from like last example, fighting really that fight ending up with that. And that fight for the method production, okay, something like that fight for the production made like eventually self up probably being exactly during that time of that attack or like last of fight, like self up also being there and that way like self gets attacked by some of like the goblin or like of like scenario that I'm doing. That was something in like and so we doesn't have focus and that way like and getting badly injured by one of the dogs and goes and we at that point like one of the blind minions like from like the blind side like basically affecting and flying away like the scenario that I'm right. So like at that point is when I'm referring like if you will be witnessing like if you would be still will be in a black and kind of like situation will be totally witnessing like and uh like flying minion from like the last thing like maybe flying off and affecting and flying off with like Alice is like the scenario that I'm so seeing that talking visual that I'm seeing like might be what that might be triggering and that trigger will be happening within that mind and at that point and maybe that resulting in like that whole self-image processing getting fixed at that point. That whole self-image processing like damage for like the concept of mind of like whether get to say yep or like no, still better still get to like make to a decision that true to a decision or not to like make a decision or not like between that like decision making self-image that process the flow of kids at that point on with nothing like Harris right in front of kids getting affected away players like even like at that point like that need to save Alice that has remained in like the past within like gives us so much for extent like and looking like getting activated at that point and that way like the continuous bouncing circuit getting fixed within like Kito's mind and that way like Kito at that point that could be like shouting out like Alice and the Kito who straight away running off to that save Alice. And I'm looking by that like the majority of like the ups and problems might have left or like I'm looking maybe a few of and problems might be like still that for like then getting in the way was like it to the like control run after like the climbing and like you know other hands and that one was like seven copies other copies that and like at that point like it will be taking off both of like the board of four as well as pit of four and like we using like the dual building style of crypto like just eliminating all those like pop and bunch of like pops and off and all these skills that it's like the positive and it would be also take them down by like there would be even more things like as long as standing right there. So like the scenario that I'm really working with. So like that way like I'm looking like from that point on I'm looking like get your along with like as one setting off on their journey to like the last week to like save and like scenario that I'm looking and along the way like as one you'll be telling people about all the happening like in that location and they see how much of it like an absolute urgency it is for them to like ensure like that like to have like and as it is like ends up in like the hands of like Tikora before like and those like focus who have like only taken over like the taken over like opened up location themselves and so on like at this point at this point I believe along the line second during accounts like like Asuna revealing to that activity. It's like the scenarios that I'm looking at. Asuna revealing all the school activity while they will be on that journey to like the dark topic. Looks like together like films of scenarios that I'm looking at.